What's going on, guys? Azak here, and in today's video we're going to be going over Dehancer Pro, which is a film emulation software that I've been using in my work. Dehancer is a color grading plugin that gives your digital footage the film look. It has tools like halation, bloom, film grain. It has 60 plus different film stock profiles and 3 different print profiles. Dehancer emulates film in all of its analog features. The crazy part about this plugin is it has fully customizable tools that you don't actually have to achieve the film look if you don't want to. You could create cinematic looks as well. Whatever look you're trying to go for in your film, you could achieve it with this plugin, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I use it in my work. This video is also sponsored by Dehancer. If you guys want to try Dehancer and get 10% off, I'll have a discount code in the description of this video. It's code AZAC. Like I said, it'll be in the description below if you want to get 10% off. So let's get right into it. So I have Premiere opened up here and I have a couple clips in the timeline. This is from Thanksgiving at my grandparents' house. I took a couple clips of, the campfire situations that were going on outside. I was getting some wood to put into the fire. Okay, so now the first thing I do is I go to effects here. I type in Dehancer and here it pops up. Dehancer Pro. Now the cool part about this is you could use it on an adjustment layer or you could put it on the clips individually. I'm actually going to put this on an adjustment layer. I drag my adjustment layer over and put it over top of the clips. Now I go back to my effects. I drag Dehancer Pro over to the adjustment layer. And you're going to see immediately your footage changes. There's settings that are automatically turned on when you open up this plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn them off real quick. So film is enabled. I'm going to click that off. Film grain is enabled. I'm going to click that one off. Okay, so now the first thing you want to do is go to input and you're going to change your log footage into Rec 709. And the cool thing about this plugin is it supports over 130 camera log profiles. So if your footage isn't already Rec 709 and you want to convert it to Rec 709, you go to choose camera and then you go to camera. See how it says camera not selected? You go down and you find your camera or whatever settings you use to film the clip, you're going to pick that. So in my case, I use the Canon R6 and I shoot C-Log 3 Cinema Gamut. So I'm going to click that. Boom. Now you see it converts it to Rec 709. So this is what it looks like right out of camera. Me walking across the grass with this log here. So after you do your Rec 709 conversion, we have exposure compensation right here. So say this is like a little bit too dark. Goes +3, -3. Okay, so obviously I can make it a little bit brighter if I want to. The exposure, I could bring it down. I'm going to keep it where it is. You have temperature. So if you want it to be a little bit cooler, a little bit warmer, you could change the temperature. Tint, obviously, we're all used to these things. Now you could choose your film profile. This is already enabled to Kodak Vision 3 250D. That's a very popular one that a lot of people use. You have Kodak Vision 3, you have Kodak Portra 160, Kodak Gold 200, Kodak Ektar 100. You have 60 plus film profiles. Now the D is for daylight and the T is for tungsten. So we're going to use Kodak Vision 3 250D. That's the most popular. So you can see the difference from before, after. So we're already starting to look pretty good. Okay, so now we have film developer here. In here we have contrast situations. I use the color boost a little bit, but it has contrast boost, color separation, gamma correction. I'm going to enable this just so I could show you. Contrast boost, it changes the contrast of the image. See how that's obviously super exaggerated, but I'm just showing you exactly what it does. So you have contrast here. Color boost, I like to use this one a lot. I think it goes to 100. I'm gonna put 50. See, it just adds almost like some saturation. We have film compression here. I don't use this too much, but I'm gonna show you kind of what happens when you mess with these. Color density, how dense the colors are gonna be. So white point, bring that up or down. You could see how it changes the highlights here. We have expand. I don't use this too much, but you have the black point. and your white point. Like I said, I don't usually use this, the black point or white point. I usually don't really mess with it. Print. Now this is everybody's favorite. Now you have a couple different print profiles, just like you would in film. You have the Fujifilm 3513. I love that one. Kodak 2383 print. You have Kodak Endura glossy paper. I like to use this one sometimes. I'm going to do Kodak 2383. Everybody loves that. I'm going to go back up to film developer here. I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation, I think. A little bit of a color boost. Be right there, 40. I'll go 50. Boom. Come back down. Now we have target white. So I'm guessing this is, I guess this would be +2 stops, -2 stops. You could see how the image changes. Very subtle difference. You also have an exposure adjustment once again, just like you had at the input. So obviously +3, -3 stops, I'm guessing. I'm going to leave it where it is. You have tonal contrast, so here's like another contrast slider. I usually use this one a lot. Add a little bit more contrast to the image. I reset that. Color density. You could see the colors change a little bit right here in these regions, in the corners almost. Color density, saturation. You have a saturation slider here. You want to put it in black and white. You could also choose a black and white film profile that they have, or film stocks that they have. Those are always nice. So you got your saturation slider. You have color head here. I don't use this the yellow, blue, magenta, green, cyan, red. This is almost like a tint situation. See how it's like almost like the tint changes. Green, if you want to slide it to green a little bit. You know, you would use this very like subtly. You don't want to go too OD on this kind of stuff. I usually don't mess with it, but what I do mess with right down here is these tones. I like to change the highlight tone. So if you look at the highlight of my clip right here, you could change it to almost like a cooler or warmer. It gives it a cool effect. Let me show you guys some of the other clips I have in here. So you see how I have this clip here, and this is actually a little bit darker. So what you could do is I could change I'll change the exposure a little bit. Maybe I'll come here to print. I usually like doing it in the print tab. Exposure. I could increase the exposure just a little bit. Something like that. That looks really good. So 0.7. Very subtle adjustments you want to do when it comes to color grading. After color head, we have film grain. This is an awesome tool, and it goes from 8mm to 65mm. 8mm would be more pronounced grain, and when you go up to 65, it's a lot less. And obviously the 50, 250, 500, 50 would be less grain, 500 would be more pronounced grain you'd be able to see. I like using the 35, 500 or 35, no, 35. 3550 is what I like to use. Now obviously you can't see it too much from the clip here, but it adds grain. Everybody loves adding some grain to give it that old film kind of look. The film grain is completely customizable too. So you could go to custom here. You could change the size, the amount, shadows, highlights. You could have, you know, more grain in the highlights of the clip compared to the shadows. You could change all that kind of stuff. It's all customizable, everything in here. Okay, so these next two tabs are halation and bloom. A lot of people get halation and bloom mixed up. If you were ever watching an old movie shot on film, you would most likely see halation, which is like this reddish orangish glow that will happen in like the highlighted areas and around light sources and stuff like that. Bloom is like a soft glow that happens around light sources and bright objects, and we're going to get into that in a second. So first we have halation here. I'm going to put it like super noticeable so you guys could see exactly what's happening. So no remjet is going to be like OD halation, and I'll show you guys that right now. Enable it. I like how all the tools have an enable checkbox right here, so you could check it on and off and see exactly what's happening. So look at around all these edges right here. You could see that in the trees a little bit. It's like a red orange glow. That's on, off, on, off. You would see this a lot in old movies that were shot on film. Now, obviously, this is super exaggerated, but if that's the look you're going for, that's the great thing about this plugin, is you could do whatever you want, really. So if you want to keep it like that, you can keep it like that. I'll show you some of the other clips. Off, on, off. Now we're going to turn it down a little bit. We'll do super 35. Now it's just there a little tiny bit. You could zoom in, you could kind of see it right around here a little bit, right around the hat. You do 16. Now the next one is bloom. Like I said, a lot of people get the bloom and halation confused. They're two different things. 8mm, just so you could see the difference. So see how the picture just changed? Ready? I'm going to turn it off again. Off, on, off, on. You see how there's like this crazy glow that's happening in all the highlights? I love this look. I love using bloom. This is my favorite thing ever. I'm using it on everything. I don't give a. So I usually use like 16 or 35 in a lot of my videos. I turn that off. Next we have film damage, and it's exactly what it says it is. It damages the film. So there'll be like, you could set this to 8mm, and there'll be like artifacts and little like dust scratches and stuff like that that'll play throughout the film. Yeah, film damage is exactly what it says. It damages the film pretty much. This is pretty cool to use if you're going for that film look. This next tab, film breath, I don't really use this too much either. Film breath is like accidental changes in like the exposure and the contrast, and you'll see like it changes a little bit while you're watching the video. It looks kind of weird. I don't really like it too much, but obviously if you're going for that film look, you would want to have something like this enabled on there. Next one is gate weave. I really don't use this one either, and I'm not even gonna sit here and try and explain it to you, to be honest. But overscan, I like using this overscan. I'm gonna enable it. It has a bunch of different settings that you could use. So as you could see, overscan is pretty much like an overlay situation that's happening, and it has these different settings, or these different profiles that you could choose from. Super 8mm, 1.33 by 1. That one's pretty cool. Widescreen, 35mm. You have the gate shape here, which is pretty much like the corners. You could change it to sharp or rounded. You could see these corners right here. Boom, now it's rounded. Put that back to normal. And then the perforations, just like on an actual film stock here, you could change it from negative or positive. Wait for that to change. See, positive, negatives, just like in real film. You could change the scale. So if you want this to be like a little bit bigger like that, that looks pretty cool. Reset that. So the overscan is a pretty cool feature to have in here. I've used it a couple times. Next tab we have here is vignette. Vignette. How do you say it? I don't know how to say it. Vignette. I will use a vignette. Yes. So the vignette I like using a lot. It adds that depth, and you could draw attention to your subject a lot better. So I'm going to enable this. You could see it changes a little bit, but what I like to do here is I'll go to feather. I'll put the feather down to 0 just so you could see exactly what's happening. You see how I have this circle here? So what I'll do here is I'll put the feather all the way down so you could see it. I'll put this to 0, and then you could change the size. You can make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to put it right there, and obviously it has like center X, center Y, so you could change this. You could slide it to the left a little bit, slide it to the right. Say if I have somebody standing here, I could draw more attention to them by doing this. Set it back to here because my subject is this car right here. It's right in the middle. So I'll keep my circle just about that. This is all fully customizable. This is what I love about this. So now I could change the exposure and bring it down. I'm going to do this a little bit exaggerated just so I could give a sense of what's happening right here. I'll bring the exposure down, and then you take the feather, you feather it out a little bit, just like that. I'll even bring this exposure down a little bit more, right there, minus 0.8. Now I'll do before, after, before, after. You could see how it's just bringing your attention to the car even more. You have the aspect ratio here. I don't think I showed you guys that. So the aspect ratio, I'll show you. You could change like the size or the shape. You could change the shape of this. So actually I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring it down like that. Let's see how that looks. Change the feather again. Feather it out. So that looks pretty dope. I should have done it like that. So let me do a before and after again. Here's before, after, before, after. Big difference. Like I said, it's drawing your attention to the subject. This is pretty cool, this monitor feature. It's just like if you were to have an external monitor recording, it has false color. I'm gonna check that on so I could show you guys what's happening. So you have your false color here from 0 to 100. The red obviously is going to be blown out, and then once you start going to the darker colors, it's going to be very dark. We have clipping indication. It'll show you if something's clipping in the image. And then if you buy this program, you have this access to export a LUT. So if you like whatever you made in here, you could export a LUT, but the only thing is your LUT is obviously not going to have film grain in it. It's not going to have the bloom. It's not going to have halation. It's not going to have any of those things. It'll just be, you know, whatever film stock you chose and however much contrast you use or saturation and whatnot. Still an awesome feature. So you could see what your footage will look like before you put it in here, and you can make decisions based off that, which is the great thing about having an external monitor and to be able to show LUTs on the external monitor while you're filming. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This plugin is super easy to use. I've been like addicted to it pretty much. This has changed my filmmaking completely. It has sparked creativity. Like I said, you don't have to go for a film look. You could go for other cinematic looks as well. It does all that. It does everything you need it to do and more. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I use Dehancer in my work. Like I said, Dehancer is an incredible program. It's completely changed my color grading process. So big thank you to Dehancer. And like I said in the beginning, there'll be a 10% discount code in the description. You could use code AZAC for 10% off. So thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.